We get asked a lot of questions about what kind of snakes can I expect to find around my house, in my garden. Okay, so there's a lot of irrational fears in Zambia for different animals. This is a chameleon, not a snake, of course. If this would have been the deadly animal that some people think it is, I would not be doing this. They can't eat us, so they don't see us as prey. And they don't want to waste that precious energy. Then the question is, why would snakes want to bite us? And they only bite us out of self-defense. So people also want to know, what do I do when I see a snake? Call one of the snake removers which we have around Lusaka. So my name is Marcel van Driel. I'm the National Coordinator of Helping Hands in Snake Safety, which is abbreviated to H.I.S.S, H.H.I.S.S. We get asked a lot of questions about what kind of snakes can I expect to find around my house, in my garden, in my yard, or even in my field. And this is one of the most common snakes, which is the brown house snake. And because it feeds on rats and mice predominantly, it is often found around houses, and that's where the name where the name comes from. And these get killed a lot, but they actually do us a favor. Mice and rats can cause a lot of diseases. They can transfer diseases to humans, and they can damage our property by digging holes under foundations and so on, but also by eating our cables, eating insulation material away from our roofs. And these can't transfer any diseases on humans. Snakes have no diseases which they can transfer on humans. They don't make damage because they don't dig holes, they use the holes which are already there. And they don't nibble on our cables. Now, if you imagine that if you have a male and a female mouse, and you keep them for a year in an enclosure which is having enough food, you end up with more than 22,000 mice. Now imagine what that could do to your garden or to your field. If you have a maize field, you might have hardly any maize for yourself left. This is why we really do need snakes around. So if you have a garden and you find a couple of these, you'll know that you have a lot less mice and rats which will eat your crops, which I think is a very good thing. So this is a brown house snake. It's obviously brown, has a whitish belly, and usually has, I'm going to try to show that. Don't know if the camera can pick that up, but it has white lines on the head. Now, what can you do to keep snakes away from your house or away from your yard? Snakes need two things. If you can see this whole snake, this whole body of this snake, for us is completely harmless. It's very vulnerable. All the weaponry are right here in the mouth. And it has it has rows of very small, very sharp teeth in the mouth. And with that it grabs its prey, holds onto it, and then coils around it and slowly squeezes the life out of it. The rest of the body is completely harmless, but it's also very vulnerable. So snakes usually need to be able to hide. They like to move through bushes, they like to move through high grass and so on. So what we need to do is to make sure that snakes don't have anywhere in our yards or close to our house to hide in. We need to make sure that we don't have building rubble lying around. We don't have logs lying around, logs of wood, big piles of leaves and other rubbish from the garden. No corrugated iron sheets. All this is excellent hiding place for animals like this one. Another thing what we need to do is make sure that they don't have access to food, because that's another requirement. They need shelter, but they also need food. If we have a very dirty yard where we throw away our rubbish, we'll attract pests, we'll attract insects, and the insects will attract all kinds of insect eaters. These could be other reptiles like lizards. They could be frogs and toads, but with the rubbish we also attract rats and mice. Now, if we attract all those kind of animals which we consider pests, we provide food for snakes, and with that we also invite snakes to our areas. So what we need to do is to keep our yards tidy, and we need to keep our yards clean. How can we keep snakes away now? I mean, what do we do? And people always ask, where can we buy repellents? That's a very interesting one. There's no such thing as a repellent that actually works. The Alexander Laboratory at the Witwatersrand University in South Africa has done extensive testing, and their findings have never been disputed by any other university or research. And that is that all the possible repellents of snakes do not work. There are no plants that repel snakes. use motor oil, J.S. fluid, it all doesn't work. Even the purpose-made sprays you can buy at Pick and Pay, ShopRite and so on, they do not work. They're a waste of your money for a very simple reason. If we want to move from this place to that place, and we know there's something smelling really badly, for example the carcass of a dog or a cat that has been run over, what do? We still want to get past it. We just close our nose, make a really nasty face, and quickly move past it, and then breathe again, and we're fine. The snakes do the same. They sense mostly with their tongues. So if they sense something bad, but they know they want to get past it anyway, they just put the tongue in their mouth, close their mouth, slither past it, and then the mouth goes open, tongue comes out, and they continue on the journey. So any repellent is useless. Now, if you want to keep snakes away from an area, physically away, that they can't enter, the only way to do that is creating physical barriers. The first one is to put mosquito nets in front of your windows. But even if you want to keep your windows open in the warm season, you're still protected. It keeps the mosquitoes out, but also the snakes. Second one is don't leave doors open unattended. And the third is make sure that if your doors are closed, that you can check if underneath there is space to move. Snakes can really squeeze to very tiny gaps. So you have to make sure that if there's space between the floor and your door, you need to close it up with either a slab of rubber or something along those lines to make sure that they can't access your house. Then look if there's big cracks in your walls, or whether there's hose pipes or tubes which are going through your walls, where maybe electric wire is going through. When the electric wire goes through and there's still enough space, a snake can also come through and therefore can get into your house. So all these physical opportunities we need to take away. Then finally, for those who, for example, have a chicken coop, it is difficult to keep snakes out of there, but one of the best methods to do so is to put either metal poles around your chicken run or your chicken coop, and put shade cloth around it. That is that cloth that you put normally over a carport to make sure that your car don't get really hot. That works excellently. The holes in that material are too small for snakes to get through, that's one. And second of all, it's very difficult for them to climb on that. Now you need to make sure that you dig that in to about 15 to 20 centimeters into the ground and then properly cover it. And you have to make sure that it's at least 1 to 1.5 meters high. And why that high is because some of the snakes which we have around and which are very prolific in eating our chickens and the eggs are snakes like the black-necked spitting cobra, and even black mambas can go after your chickens. And these are snakes that can get quite big and they can climb quite well. So it's important to make sure that the shade cloth which you put up vertically is high enough, and ideally you would put a 1.50 meter high shade cloth around your chicken coop. Now if you have a play area for your children, you want to make sure that snakes don't come there, you could do the same thing. Another thing what we've noticed is that if snakes are in an area and they live there and it's close to your house, after a while they know where you move and where you don't move, and they'll always try to avoid you. So if you're very often around your terrace and snakes have seen that, they will not really want to be coming to your terrace, unless it is at night when you're inside, to see if there's any scraps left over, if there's anything to eat there like rats, mice and so on. Yeah. For those who have pets like cats or dogs, if you feed them outside, for example on your terrace, make sure that you clean it afterwards, because the leftovers which your dogs might leave behind will attract rats and mice. And of course these in turn attract snakes. So if you clean that properly, there's nothing to eat for the mice and the rats, and you will also not attract snakes so much. People are always wondering what should they do when they see a snake? Now, the basic rule is if you find yourself close to a snake and you've noticed each other, or you have only noticed a snake and the snake hasn't seen you yet, the moment you don't move, you're actually already safe. Unless you make a sudden movement, the snake won't bite you. So you need to stay as calm as possible and then slowly move away from the snake. Now, the moment you move away from the snake, you increase the distance between you and the snake, and that means that you bring yourself out of harm's way. But you also release the stress on the snake. The snake will see you as that big dangerous thing that moves away from them. They'll feel safer, and at some point they'll either just completely relax on the spot or they'll move somewhere to hide. Now if you see a snake somewhere in the field and this happens it will probably slither off and it's fine. But if you see it in your garden close to your house or even in your house, then you might have to take measures. If you see it moving out of your house and into the garden and away, it's probably because it has noticed you and is fleeing from you, and it might not even come back ever. If it's in your house, close the door of the room it is in, whether it's a bathroom, a bedroom, a living room, or whatever it is. Close that door, and if there's a gap under your door, fill that up with a towel of some sorts. That way the snake is trapped. And then call one of the snake removers which we have around Lusaka. What you should definitely never do is try to catch the snake, or try to kill the snake, or have somebody else try to kill the snake for you. Because if you tell your staff member, kill that snake, and your staff member gets bitten, you're to blame. And the results can be catastrophic. And especially around Lusaka, where you have people that are trained to help you with snake problems, you should definitely call those people. Another question is, what do I do if I get bitten by a snake? Now, always keep in mind that not every snake is venomous, and even of the venomous snakes, they're not all deadly. So if you get bitten by a snake, you have a good chance of survival. That is important to realize, because we want you to stay as calm as possible, because if it's a bite from one of the dangerous snakes, like the black mamba, the puff adder, one of the cobras, or a boom slug, twig snake, or any of those, it is important to stay as calm as possible. If you get stressed out, your heart rate goes up, your adrenaline starts pumping, and you basically help the venom spread from where you got bitten to the vital parts in your body, which is your heart and your lungs predominantly. And you don't want that to happen. If you get bitten on the hand or you get bitten on the foot, you want the venom to move as slowly as possible in spreading. And what you need to do is to get to the hospital as quickly as possible. And preferably a hospital where they can keep your heart and your lungs going. So they need to have that kind of machinery. And while they keep you alive, they can source for antivenom and other medication they need to administer. We have a website, www.h.I.S.S.com. You can reach us via email at info@his.com, all very simple. Then we have a Facebook page, also Helping Hands in Snake Safety, or the handle @helpingsnakes. Another very good resource is the Facebook page Zambian Snakes and Other Crawlies. Now, what does the NGO do? We do three things. First of all, we do all kind of sensitization and awareness activities, like for example holding snake talks in communities, in organizations, in institutions, but also in youth clubs like the Chongolola Club, the Chipumbele Club. And we visit schools to give classroom talks about snakes, and we hand out pamphlets and folders so that people have a lot of information about snakes. That's one. Second of all, we give snake awareness, recognition and handling training, and for that we work together with an organization called Snakes Alive Zambia, which is run by Paul Lloyd. And very often we take these training courses take place here at Kalimba, because here we have the facilities and we have snakes to work with, because when we do snake handling courses, we really teach people how to handle a cobra, handle a puff adder and even handle a black mamba. And the last thing we do is work together with health practitioners, especially the Ministry of Health, on the improvement of snakebite management. And a lot of improvement is needed there, because we don't have enough antivenom in the country, but also we really need to make sure that health practitioners are properly trained and that they have the equipment to save people's lives, especially in the rural areas. Now, apart from that, every time we give snake handling training, we also see if there's people who are willing to be on our snake removers list. And this list is growing really well. So we have now people trained in the Lusaka area, in Solwezi, in Livingston, Western Province and in the Eastern Province. And these are people you can call if you have a snake, a problem snake in your house, in your yard, on your farm, which really needs to be removed because that snake causes danger to itself, but also to your staff members, your family, your pets or your livestock.